The NFL trade deadline has come and gone. Your Minnesota Vikings did end up making a couple moves. First off, the biggest of them is quarterback help, obviously, after the injury to Kirk Cousins. It wasn't surprising that they made this move. A lot of people maybe expecting them just to grab a guy off the streets, free agency wise, but they did, as in a Colt McCoy. But we did end up making a trade with the Arizona Cardinals for Josh Dobbs. The final compensation is the Vikings get Josh Dobbs and a 7th-round pick in exchange for a 6th-round pick in 2024. As you see from Adam Schefter here as well, there are also conditions attached that can turn the 7th we got from them into a 6th. So at the end of the day, it really could end up where we do end up getting a quarterback with starting experience, basically for free, and we'll get into his stats a little bit later on here. And the second move made, of course, was offensive guard Ezra Cleveland, who has missed the last couple weeks due to injury, being traded to the Jacksonville Jaguars for a 6th-round pick. So in a way, we do kind of recoup that pick that we got for Josh Dobbs. Now Ezra is a guy who he's been starting at guard ever since he was drafted. Came into the league as a tackle, but did fit in as a guard. Had been playing relatively well throughout his career here. He's not spectacular by any means, but a very solid presence with that tackle flexibility. A lot of people were thinking this trade was coming. Now, if you look at Twitter, there's two different sides. Some people think, hey, this is a great move for us. Some people think we got fleeced. I, at the end of the day, think it was pretty solid just due to the leverage and kind of what it would look like if he left. There was news out there that if he did leave, it would be most likely a 5th-round compensatory pick that might even get offset due to some moves we could make. That was from Will Raggett. So at the end of the day, both these moves are very low risk, potentially high reward. I know losing a depth in Ezra sucks, but Kevin O'Connell did mention today that he thinks there is a lot of quality depth on this team. So at the end of the day, I think these are very solid moves, and moves that, if this team really is trying to win now and look towards the future, help both. And with Dalton Risner playing as well as Dalton Risner has played so far, Ezra just was a guy, he was expendable. So overall, I'm happy with these moves. I mean, they don't really change my opinion on the outlook of this season too much, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. They did make some moves. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with the Josh Dobbs stuff because, I mean, I kind of like Josh Dobbs. I mean, at this point, he's kind of journeyman backup quarterback. Where was he drafted out of again?
Tennessee.
Tennessee, that's right. And he came out with a little bit of hype or whatever. He had a good college career, but other than that, kind of a journeyman. You know, we already know Kevin O'Connell said today that we plan on starting Jaren Hall at least in this first game. So that's what I wanted. I want to see Jaren Hall out there. Right. This Dobbs trade, obviously, again, he is a journeyman backup. He's not someone that's coming in and you're hoping that he's going to start. If we went after like a Jameis Winston, that would be like a move that I feel like maybe you're holding on a little bit. If you go get Winston, he's probably starting type of move, right? Otherwise, there wasn't very many quarterbacks out there that you could actually go and grab and, you know, keep going with the season and hoping to turn it around completely or whatever. So I do like the idea that we are going to keep rolling with Jaren Hall unless it doesn't work out. And then you do have a Dobbs in there. Another thing I like about Dobbs, though, is, you know, he's been a very solid mobile quarterback for the Cardinals. I actually had him on my fantasy. My quarterbacks are so bad. So I actually had him on my fantasy team, but he was actually pretty solid because he can run the ball. And it does kind of give you an idea. I know, you know, people are putting clips up of the KOC's press conference and him sounding like he still might want to keep Kevin or Kirk Cousins around after this offseason. We'll see if that happens. But this kind of move to me makes it look like they want to kind of go towards that mobile quarterback thing. I mean, you got Jared Hall, who is mobile, and then now you, instead of going and get, you know, the Nick Mullins, the Sean Mannion type of quarterback, you get a guy in Josh Dobbs that can run around with the ball in his hands. So I do think that gives you an idea of what direction we might go into this offseason and into the draft if we don't keep Kirk Cousins around. I still don't think it's going to happen. It doesn't make any sense to keep someone around that's coming off an Achilles if you were already, you know, contemplating keeping him around, unless he was for a really good deal. I just don't see that happen. I think someone's going to give Kirk the money, even with Achilles heel. I just don't think it's going to be us. So I'd say solid. Again, you know, it's nothing crazy. It's not going to blow the roof off our house or whatever. it's just a solid move. I prefer to have him if Hall goes down instead of Sean Mannion. And I mean, potentially even more than Nick Mullins, just because I'm excited that he can use his legs if it comes down to it. But overall, I am rooting for Jaren Hall to come in and hopefully have a Brock Purdy type. I know we're asking for a lot, but hopefully have a Brock Purdy type of presence there, because he does have a lot of talent around him and a good offensive line.
Right.
I feel like we can say that now because they have been one of the best in the NFL. So I do think that is big on that part. On the Ezra Cleveland thing, I don't know. Like you said, I mean, it's going into, to me, it's just, it's not, it's a 6th-round pick. You're worried that he's going to be a 5th-round pick next year for that extra pick or whatever. It's just not that big of a deal. I'm not going to say we got destroyed in a trade.
Right.
It's just not that big. And obviously, the other one I'm seeing on Twitter is just that Ed Ingram. Like, how come we're trading Cleveland instead of Ed Ingram? Well, first off, Cleveland was injured, and we already have Reisner in there. Secondly, Ed Ingram, whether you like it or not, actually, Ed Ingram has been better in these last few weeks. So you can put that on there. And he's a 2nd-round pick just a year ago. And again, Cleveland's contract was up at the end of this season. So it doesn't really make sense to get rid of Ed Ingram instead of Cleveland at this moment. Like, that makes the most sense. Though, I mean, you could have argued like Reisner should have been in there instead of Ed Ingram or whatever, but it was just because of Cleveland's injury that Reisner even had the chance to go in there or whatever. So, I mean, that's just a solid trade. I mean, I don't think him playing a guard wasn't really working anyways. Not, we weren't going to keep him around next offseason. So it was, and we have Reisner now. So it wasn't that big of a deal to me. And I would say both these aren't a big deal to me, other than that it does, to me, seem like we're going in towards a more mobile quarterback direction with that Dobbs signing to me.
And with Dobbs, I feel like, because obviously, like you said, Kevin O'Connell did announce Jaren Hall is going to start, which makes sense because Dobbs would have to learn this offense in like 2 days in order to be ready for the game anyway. But
which he's been able to do. He did that with who was it last? Was it the Browns last year?
I think that sounds right. Yeah,
he jumped in. They no, dang it. Who is it? Tennessee. Tennessee.
Was it? But obviously, he did have to make that. He did have to do the same thing last year. But also, it gives you flexibility especially with the uncertainty surrounding Nick Mullins' back injury that still has him on IR. And God, we don't want to see Sean Mannion. So it does help to where I think Jaren Hall is going to be given the keys. Obviously, it is this first week, and we'll see. And it's kind of one of those things where if he comes out this week and you can just tell, even with a couple weeks of reps, he's not going to be ready, then you make the move to the veteran presence in Josh Dobbs, who has had to learn an offense on the fly. And if Jaren Hall plays well, you let him go in there until you're just and see what he's got, right? Yeah. So basically, Dobbs is just he's definitely the security blanket here. But I mean, because Kevin O'Connell did say like the goal is to get him ready to play, like the one snap away mindset. The goal is to get him ready to play in case he needs to go in there. But I definitely do think the plan is Jaren Hall, you see what you got, and if it really doesn't work out, then you put Dobbs in there, and maybe the guy was more of the veteran presence. But if he does end up playing, he obviously has had some starting experience this year with Arizona. He did end up winning 1 game with them. We'll pull up his stats here. Nothing super crazy. I mean, his highest passing game was 265 yards. Relatively safe quarterback. Didn't make a lot of mistakes here. I mean, only 3 games with an interception. I mean, sure, 2 of those were 2-pick games. But this is what you're getting. You're getting a solid veteran quarterback who, if he needs to play, he's not going to make any terrible mistakes. And he's coming into a team much like Jaren Hall is right now with, as you said, a better offensive line, weapons. It sounds like Justin Jefferson is going to be ready to come back after his 4 weeks is up on the injured reserve. And I think Justin Jefferson's so damn competitive. I think he will come back this season. I think he will play. I don't think he's going to sit out due to the contract or whatever. So,
yeah.
And but again, this is what you have in Josh Dobbs. You have a solid veteran presence. He's nothing flashy, but he's going to be a safe quarterback with a really good team around him. The defense coming into its own. So, I mean, it kind of is what it is here. It's definitely like, let's just see what we got and let it ride type of territory. I mean, unfortunately, but fortunately, we have the team that we can do that with these quarterbacks.
Right. And then, I mean, one thing about him, though, you do have to talk about, like I already mentioned earlier, is his rushing. I mean, if you look at this, I mean, 6 attempts, 7 attempts, 7 attempts, 3 attempts, 12 attempts, 6 attempts, 55 yards, 48 yards, 47 yards, 43 yards, 26 yards, whatever. I mean, he'd almost be the leading rusher on our team right now.
Touchdowns.
Yeah, and more three times as many rushing touchdowns as we have on this season, let alone running backs by themselves. So, I mean, that's significantly different than anything we've seen from any of our starting quarterbacks, probably since, I don't even know, maybe Dante Culpepper or something like that, or like a Joe Webb or something, but whatever. So, I mean, that is going to be something that is a lot different, and it is going, and I think we are going to see that with Jaren Hall. And we talked about this on our live stream. It will be interesting to see KOC as a head coach coming in now, losing Kirk Cousins, not having Justin Jefferson for at least 1 week, and then you're bringing a guy that is going to play a little bit different than Kirk Cousins, and kind of see how KOC manages that, and if he draws up plays and things like that for this type of quarterback. Sure. And I think he has something in mind, because just the fact that you did go out for a Dobbs instead of the Nick Mullins, Mannion type that I already mentioned before, it'll be interesting to see how he handles that, and if he can game plan around that as well. So
sure. Yeah. But anyway, Vikings make moves to the deadline, trade for Josh Dobbs and trade away Ezra Cleveland. Let us know your thoughts on these trades down in the comment section, and we'll see you guys right here on GG Sports Podcast next time.
Skol Vikes.